So, recently, Valve announced this competition to make skins for an upcoming CSGO case, Dreams and Nightmares, and it came with prize money. Lots of prize money, which meant a lot of people have been submitting skins for it and putting in a lot of effort. And in this video, we're going to have a look at the best of these. Now, this video is sponsored by Skinport, the easy to use skins marketplace where you can sell your skins for real cash. Skinport has a huge range of skins that you can buy at massive discounts compared to the Steam market, all pretty much at the click of a button. There is no need to deposit first or anything like that, just pick the skin you want and straight up buy it. You can also check it out in 4K using the site's inspect feature for good measure, so you know exactly what you're getting before you buy it. Great site, recommend checking it out, link is in the description. So, let's have a look at some skins. Firstly, we've got this thing, the USP Nightcrow. Now, I like this design quite a bit. We've got this blood red sky with a full moon and a creepy looking crow. It's very Bloodborne-esque. Hate those crows. Anyway, unfortunately, I think this skin has zero chance of making it into the case though. First of all, Valve are very clear about which skins they want in which tier, and this thing does not look like a restricted skin to me. It's way too colourful. Also, we literally got a red USP last case, so yeah, I think this one is likely DOA. Now, another solid submission I thought was this thing, the Village Horror. Obviously, it's got some classic horror movie vibes to it. One detail I really like is the scary Jack-in-the-Box on the magazine, not to mention this creepy scythe guy on the back with the lantern. Pretty cool, I love all these little details, and I think this skin could make a great classified, but it's got a small problem. Valve only wants a Milspec 5.7, so great submission, but also probably doomed to fail. Now, the reason I put these two skins at the start is I just want to make the point for everyone thinking of entering, make sure you make skins Valve actually wants, the ones you can see here, because otherwise you could make the coolest thing in the world and have zero chance of actually winning. But hey, speaking of the stuff Valve actually wants, well, a lot of the emphasis naturally is going to be on the AK and the MP9, and there is a lot of entries for these so far. Now, in the case of the MP9, it's going to be the first ever covert MP9 in the game, so it's quite the prize, and there's definitely some interesting submissions. One of them is this, the MP9 Tiki. Now, Tikis are ceremonial Polynesian carvings. It definitely does make me think of Crash Bandicoot as well. Now, I like the art style of this, I really do, and it looks to me like there's been a fair bit of effort in applying it to the gun as well. It doesn't just look like it's been slapped on, but I do have a bit of a criticism. I think this one does stretch the definition of Dreams and Nightmares. The author says tiki heads can be scary sometimes, so I guess he's going for a nightmare vibe, but I think this might be pushing it a little bit, although I still think it's quite a nice skin. Now, another really cool submission is the MP9 Totemic. It's sort of got a spirit animal theme to it, but it's a super detailed skin. One touch I really like is how the trigger is meant to be the fangs of the big cat. I think that's pretty clever, but I also think the skin does have one small problem. It looks a lot like another skin in the game, the food chain. Now, that is no coincidence, the food chain is by the exact same artist, but either way, I think that might be a problem for this one. That said though, the artist in question does have a bunch of other submissions for the MP9. Submissions like The Last Titan, which is pretty cool, but isn't there 3 of them? It's not really the last one in that case, is it? And also the Elf Warrior, which has got to be one of the weirdest skins I've ever seen, although I still kind of like it. And either way, the artist is definitely still in with a shot. Now, I thought we'd look at one final MP9, so I don't know if it's going to quite cut it as a covert skin, but I love the whole carrot horror movie thing it's going for. It really, really nails the theme of the competition. It's a proper nightmare skin, and just such a crazy idea too. I'm curious what the inspiration for this was. Anyway, this brings us to the AK skins, which is naturally a pretty crowded market. First of all, we've got this thing, the Fudutachi Honor. It's named after a creepy Japanese folklore monster, a woman with 2 mouths, one at the back of her head. It's also got tentacles and eyeballs, which is not really that related to the legend. I mean, a little bit, but it's kind of stretching things. But obviously the most important thing is that the artwork is creepy, and this is definitely creepy. And speaking of creepy, we've also got the AK Escaping the Void. Again, pretty nasty stuff. Also a bit Soulsborne-y, which I obviously kind of like, and it definitely fits the nightmare theme. In fact, apparently, it's literally based on the artist's nightmares. I tell you what, this guy's some f***ed up nightmares. Now, we've also got this dragon-themed AK from 2 Mind Studios. Pick your colours. There's 3 of them. It's definitely got some serious Sekiro vibes. And while I think it's probably a bit of a stretch as an entrant for the Dreams and Nightmares competition, I mean it was repurposed, it's still pretty cool, so I wanted to include it. So another AK is the Blood Ocean. I think this one is supposed to be based around a kind of surreal dream about being swallowed by the ocean. Reminds me a bit of the Sunset Storm skins too, to be honest, but I like the Blood Moon theme. The ocean also kind of looks like it has hands emerging from it, which is pretty creepy too. And finally, one last AK. The AK Beautiful Nightmare. Now, obviously it's got a creepy woman with no irises crying black tears, which I think fits the whole nightmare theme pretty well. It's also maybe a little bit cyberpunkish, particularly given the artist made an image for it that looks like this, but regardless, I think it is still a pretty interesting design. Now, the other big area of attention for the competition is going to be the classified skins. This case has a pretty oddball mix of them, an MP7, dualies, and a Famas, although the first 2 could definitely do with some more classified skins, so I think it's good in that regard. And I will say, at the moment, the entries are still pretty sparse here. I think a lot of the focus has been on the coverts, and it's left a bit of an opening on these skins. There was definitely some stuff I liked though. One of them is this thing, the MP7 Starlight. I'm actually really impressed by this design because it's literally based on those glow-in-the-dark stickers that I grew up sticking on the ceiling above my bed. And it's not an accident either, that is what it's meant to be. But yeah, it reminds me of being a child falling asleep looking at those stickers, so yeah, I think it's really clever as a Dreams-themed skin. Now, on the Julie side, we've got this submission based on the How. I think these things look pretty cool. It definitely works as a Nightmare skin, but I also think there is 0 chance of Valve accepting a skin based on the How. Sorry dude, you've done some great gifts though, those are really excellent. Anyway, there definitely is a bit more variety in the Famas section. One of the entries that really stood out to me was this one, which definitely isn't going to fly in China. There is way too much skeleton going on there, and I think some people might find it a little bit too cartoonish, but I kind of like how vivid it is. And look, if that doesn't cut it, you can always go for the creepy clown. This one is straight out of a child's nightmare. Now, 2 Minds has a Famas competition with an octopus on it called Deep Wisdom, and I don't think this is what the artist intended, but this thing is just massively Bloodborne to me. Like, Bloodborne directly links the ocean and the tentacle monsters that live in it with dreams and nightmares, and it also has an item called Deep Sea, which is supposed to be a bit of wisdom from said tentacle monsters that only live in dreams. So, there you go. Now, failing that, there is some much more literal demons going on here. I think this skin's main problem is that it's probably slightly too amazing for its own good. Like, I think it might be slightly too awesome to be anything other than covert. It even glows in the dark. Check this. Really, really cool. And speaking of glowing stuff, well, there's also some skins experimenting with using pearlescent effects to create a dream theme. Now, obviously the crazy colours here are meant to represent a dream. There's a version for the Julies and for the Famas, and I think it's very likely we will see some pearlescent skins in the case, but it remains to be seen what sort of design Valve goes for. This is not very subtle. I'm not sure if this is what they're after or not, but I guess we're gonna see. Now, I also wanted to look at a few other neat random designs I came across. One of them was this 3D sword off, forged in hell to eat the souls of those who dare to dream, according to the designer. Well, either way, I think it looks pretty badass. Obviously being a sword off is a bit of a limitation, but Valve does want a sword off in the case, and I think this is a pretty cool candidate. Another design I thought was quite clever was this 5.7, which is specifically being made to be Milspec, which is what Valve is after. It's a really nice, simple theme that fits the competition. It's based off the idea of time flowing in weird ways in a dream. Pretty neat. I could easily see this thing ruining hundreds of thousands of case unboxings come this November. Anyway, that's it for now. Obviously it's still early in the competition, but there's still a lot of amazing skins that have already been submitted, and I think it's only going to get more amazing from here. So I'm really looking forward to seeing where things are when I make a follow-up video in a couple of months. Otherwise, trust the numbers, not your gut. I'm Heyzeus. Thanks for watching. See ya.